We're reading Walk the World's Rim, and we're on Chapter 4, The Buffalo People. Esteban and Ch.4 tried all the dialects they knew and were finally reduced to using signs. They weren't sure the Indians understood until they explained that the Spaniards following were great medicine men. Then the Buffalo People murmured and glanced at an old man standing cross-armed before a large painted teepee. Ch.4 shivered. The Buffalo People had strong medicine of their own. Their medicine man would not welcome new gods. The three señores soon appeared on the trail. Dorantes and Cabeza de Vaca supported Castillo between them. The Buffalo People's medicine man snorted contemptuously and turned away. The other Indians crowded about the strangers, touching and rubbing their skins. Some even scratched Esteban to see if the black was painted on. Cabeza de Vaca stood quietly as his straw-colored beard was pulled, fingered, and whispered away. They bore it all patiently, for the Buffalo People had plenty of food: dried meat, dried berries mixed with fat, and stew made of both. Ch.4 ate his fill, but, like the four men, his stomach was too used to a starvation diet to take more than one small meal a day. He tucked a strip of dried buffalo meat in his waistband for the time when his stomach stretched. "Do you think we will stay here a while?" he asked Esteban. "Who knows? Don Castillo needs the rest and food, but the people—" He shrugged his dark shoulders. Ch.4 nodded solemnly. The Buffalo People had welcomed them joyously, as the other tribes had done. They gave the strangers food and shelter that curiously demanded, but not in the spirit of friendship. They kept their distance and seemed to be only waiting for an excuse to declare the Spaniards enemies. Through the thin walls of the teepee, Esteban and Ch.4 could hear Dorantes arguing with Cabeza de Vaca. They don't like us," he was saying. "Have you noticed the way they finger their bows? Just waiting to put an arrow in our backs." Be that as it may," came de Vaca's calm voice, "Castillo can't go on without food and rest. Esteban can carry him. Esteban is not a horse. He can carry Castillo to the next village." Excuse me. "What makes you think the people there will be any friendlier? We've traveled beyond our fame as medicine men." "Then it's time we left this part of the country as quickly as possible. The next tribes may be friendlier." There was a long silence. "Very well, we will continue in the morning." De Vaca's straggly beard appeared under the teepee flap. "Esteban, will you ask the Indians for guides?" Ch.4 followed his friend through the camp. Esteban signaled their need for a guide to lead them to the next village across the river. The Buffalo People followed the hand movements with blank stares. Ch.4 felt sure they understood. They simply did not think enough of the señors to spare hunters of a trip. They cared nothing for what happened to these strangers. Ch.4 could not blame them. If the Spaniards had not helped the sick and starving, these people would have felt the same. "Now we must stay," Ch.4 said. Esteban shook his head. "Dorantes will insist we leave without a guide." "But we don't know the trails." "No matter. Does a frightened rabbit care where he runs?" Ch.4 glanced at their teepee, now close enough to see the Spaniards' shadows through the oiled sides. He lowered his voice. "Castillo will not be with us long if we move tomorrow. I know. I have seen many like him." To be sure, Esteban looked as if he would say more, but didn't. Ch.4 knew what he was thinking. If they stayed, there was a chance none of them would leave the village. Then they approached the Buffalo People. The tension and mistrust were almost strong enough to touch. He fingered the dry meat in his waistband, but his stomach felt too uneasy for food. Esteban's heavy hand ruffled the boy's hair. "Report to the seniors, little one. And you?" His only answer was to squeeze Chaco's shoulder and disappear into the darkness at the edge of the camp. The boy hesitated, tempted to follow, but Esteban had commanded him to report. With a sigh, Chaco entered the teepee and told of their failure to find a guide. After a heated argument, it was decided that they'd ford the river in the morning, Esteban carrying Castillo on his back. Cabeza de Vaca crossed himself, "And may God guide our footsteps." The words were no sooner out when a babel of voices rose in the village. Chaco was first out of the teepee. The crowd of Indians halted at sight of the Spaniards. Esteban hobbled forward and leaned heavily on Chaco's shoulder. Blood trickled from 2 small marks on his right calf. "What happened?" asked Chaco. "Get me into the teepee, quickly." Before Chaco could move, the chattering crowd of Indians parted. The buffalo medicine man stalked up to Esteban. A warrior stepped forward to explain in words and signs. The medicine man smiled. His eyes narrowed as he turned to Esteban and made the cutting sign of death. "What did he say?" asked Dorantes. "What's wrong with Esteban?" Chaco shook his head. His throat was too numb to pass words. Through blurred eyes, he helped Esteban into the lodge and lowered him gently to the buffalo robes. Dorantes tagged behind, plucking at Chaco's arm and getting in the way. "What is it, boy? What's the matter with him?" Anger released Chaco's voice. "Esteban was bitten by a rattlesnake." "How could he be so careless?" shrieked Dorantes. "I should have whipped him, or have him whipped. I should have him whipped." Chaco gaped at the angry Spaniard. "Don't you understand? Esteban will die." "He can't. I won't let him." Cabeza de Vaca pushed past the babbling Spaniard and looked down at Esteban's leg. "2 horses, continued Dorantes. "That's what he's worth, and you know horses in this country are beyond price. He can't die. He's all I have left. The Indians must know some herb to use. Boy, don't you know any medicine?" He grabbed for Chaco, but Cabeza de Vaca stepped between them. "Get out, Dorantes. Do you hear me? As the surviving senior officer of this expedition, I order you to get out." Dorantes backed slowly from the teepee. Castillo shuffled after him, saying, "I will pray for his soul." The muttering of the waiting Indians could still be heard. There was no sorrow in their voices, just curiosity and an occasional ripple of laughter. Cabeza de Vaca knelt by Esteban. "Some light here, Chaco," he sighed. "If only we had a sharp Toledo blade." It is too late for a knife," said Esteban. "True, my friend. Only one of Castillo's miracles can save you now. Why did you wander from the camp at night? You know the serpents roam after sunset." Chaco brought a flaming branch from the fire and knelt across from de Vaca. He gasped and leaned closer, his eyes raised to meet the Spaniard's. "There should be swelling by now or ugly streaks. It is a miracle." "Is it?" The Spaniard touched the 2 bloody marks. "Have you ever seen snakebite bleed so freely, or leave such jagged marks?" He turned to Esteban, who was propped on his elbows, grinning at them. "I said it was too late for a knife. I needed one when I cut. A stone knife makes too large a hole. That is why I needed to get into the teepee quickly. The Indians must continue to believe a snake bite has bitten me. Cabeza de Vaca sat back on his heels. I don't know whether to weep from relief or to let Dorantes whip you. Why? Asked Chaco. Why did you do it? To make the senor's great medicine men again. To be sure, the buffalo people will never bring anyone for them to heal, but now they can heal me. And what a great healing it will be. Something not even their own medicine man can do. And while we are healing you, said Davaca, Castillo can rest. It is a good plan, Esteban. If they believe Esteban was really bitten, said Chaco, just listen to Dorantes. The way he's carrying on out there, can there be any doubt? Esteban sighed. I suppose we must tell him the truth. It was decided that Chaco would announce that the seniors would perform a great healing. In 3 days, at sundown, Esteban would appear alive and well, cured by the great medicine men from the land of the sun. Go now, said Cabeza de Vaca. Chaco hesitated. He did not feel easy with the plan, but could discover no reason. Perhaps it was only the aftertaste of his fear of losing Esteban. He rose slowly. He was not as good with the sign language as Esteban, but the buffalo people understood. During the next days, they went out of their way to pass the Spaniards' teepee. Women cleaning and stretching hides glanced often at the teepee as they walked. Groups of warriors stood about waiting to see if the strangers could indeed cure the bite of a rattler. The Spaniards were busy healing Esteban. In this idle time, Chaco parched the tea leaves, replaced the dried remains in his medicine pouch, and kept his eyes open for the strong medicine to add. Each day the buffalo people hung their medicine bags on pronged sticks before their teepees. Chaco wandered about the village, itching to see what the long hide cylinders contained, but not daring to touch or even ask. Late on the second day, he stood wondering at the meaning of the quill work design on one of the medicine bags. Was it part of the medicine, or did it keep the magic powers safely inside the bag? The women came to carry the medicine bag inside the lodge for the night. Chaco turned away and stopped. The buffalo medicine man stood before him. Silence fell over the camp. Women stopped chattering. Men moved close. Even the big yellow dogs stood expectantly, ears alert and tongues lolling. Chaco waited. The medicine man pointed to the setting sun and raised one finger. One more day for the seniors to practice their healing. Then came the death sign. Esteban will die. The medicine man spun on his heel and strode away. While aware of the signs, Chaco had also searched the eyes of the medicine man. He had read the fear and anger in them. He had all but heard the man's thoughts. Chaco's knees trembled, but he forced himself to walk slowly past the staring Indians in his own teepee. He lifted the flap and hesitated. I can hardly wait to see their faces when you walk out of here tomorrow night, Dorantes was saying. I never thought we'd get out of here with our own skins whole. You're a smart one, Esteban. When we get to Mexico, I'll see you're properly rewarded. Chaco stepped away from the entrance. He'd forgotten about Dorantes, even when he'd thought Esteban was dying. The Spaniard had babbled about horses and threatened to whip him. He had even spoken of abandoning Esteban in the village of the tea drinkers in order to save his own life. What would he do when he discovered that Esteban's plan was like a rock thrown high into the air, about to come down and crush them all? Would the Spaniards even understand their danger? Chaco doubted it. The uneasiness he'd felt when Esteban told of his plan had not been felt by the Spaniards. They did not understand about medicine men, or they'd never treat their own power so lightly. The Buffalo people had strong medicine. Their medicine man would be stronger and more powerful than those of Chaco's people. The greater the power, the greater the fear of losing it. In the eyes of the medicine man, Chaco had read that fear. If the Spaniards healed Esteban of the snake bite, the buffalo medicine man would be forced to destroy the Spaniards. He might call the spirit of misfortune down upon them or use some poisonous herb known only to himself. Whatever the magic he used, the result would be the same. He would have proved his medicine was stronger than that of the Spaniards, for Esteban and the señors would be dead. Chaco was not sure of his own fate. He hoped it would be the same as Esteban's, rather death than the disgrace of slavery. It does not matter, he muttered to himself. I won't let it happen. Esteban had saved him once by drinking the tea. Somehow he would save Esteban, but how? He crushed the dried leaves in his medicine bag and sighed. What good was that? The Buffalo people had stronger medicine. Besides, he had not yet devised a ritual for the use of the dried leaves. His hands searched his nearly naked body. The Buffalo people had better bows and arrows. The cut loincloth was useless even to himself. Then his right hand cupped over the shell on his chest. Slowly he nodded. Hadn't his father said it would protect him? Quickly he crossed himself in the magic sign of the señors. Then, to be sure, he spat twice over his left shoulder before slipping the thong over his head. With the shell in his hand, he marched across the shadows of men and teepees straight to the painted lodge of the Buffalo medicine man.